Hi, I'm Seamless, and today is Friday, which means it's time for a new How to Bass. And today I'm going to show you how to make this sound. This is a sound that uses some ideas that I've actually used in the past, but now I'm more blatantly focusing on one particular concept. And that's the idea of sort of post-shaping reverb. In the past, I've had sounds where I did lots of the EQing and compression, check, modulation, filtering, whatever, stacking. And I put reverb way at the beginning of the channel. And like at the beginning of I can't see citrus. That's because it's over here. That was really weird. At the beginning of the chain, which meant that it propagated through all the effects chains as they went through. So in Citrus, along with some other interesting stuff that I'll talk about in a second, I'm also engaging with reverb, and it's just using the reverb that's inside the FX on Citrus, and then it's going through all the stuff that Citrus is going through, which is not all that much in the grand scheme of things. The fun piece of automation, the primary automation we're seeing up here is FM automation. We'll talk about that in a minute, and then the primary external automation is this bandpass, but this is a really thin bandpass. It's just sitting right here. And this is what? Gentle 4. Okay, so this means one particularly important thing. Outside of this bandwidth here, there is nothing. Which you might be thinking, well, that's what it looks like visually. And the thing is, though, is that if you keep it at just the 2 mode, like it is by default, what that means is that there is actually a little bit of bleeding that goes on the outside. And you can see, actually, we can hear a hell of a lot more going on there. Now, the reason why we can hear a hell of a lot more is because I'm actually pushing it really hard with the compression to bring back those frequencies. But no matter how hard we bring them back, there's nothing there of that, because any other mode besides the middle 2 mode, which if you go into order, you can see there's 2, and then there's steeps, and there's gentles. Any other mode besides the 2 mode cuts it off where you see the cutoff happen. Now, the reason why we're still hearing high frequencies are for 2 reasons. One is because I stuck an effector in here and I'm sticking it at the low 5 mode, which is a bit crusher, so I'm bit crushing it. Very, very lightly. As you can see, it's almost completely dry. The effects is quite slight. The idea of it is that it's actually reintroducing certain high frequencies. I decided, okay, so I wanted to do that with the wave shaper initially because there is something you could do with the wave shaper that's kind of like bit crushing. However, I wanted a specific kind of tone that came from particular bit crushing plugins, which do so not only with, the method that the wave shaper does it, but also with some certain kinds of quantizing, which make it sound in its particular way. And then it's going into Maximus. Now, the thing about Maximus, which is also down there for some reason, is that, like I said, I'm pushing the individual bands very hard to bring back the particular frequencies. It's way harder on the high frequencies because there are so less of the high frequencies that there would have been normally. And then I'm also pushing it pretty hard on the master. The cool thing about pushing it on the master is this sort of reverb tail gets pulled up a bit in post. And that kind of fun thing. So it gets crushed up against itself for a second, and then there's a big old reverb tail. So it's almost as if when the thing hits, there's not really all that much reverb audible, and that's because it's being compressed super hard against the clean signal. And then I have actual reverb at the end of this, just to give everything a big old kind of reverby feel. Which is really just kind of a to taste sort of thing. Now let's talk about the actual citrus that we're using here. That doesn't work. There we go. All right. Mute. We can hear the reverb coming out there as well. So what this is a waveform that is almost a saw wave being modulated by a triangle wave at 1 octave higher than the output oscillator. Also, the output oscillator has a little bit of resync going on. That's, whoa, super high frequency. Sorry about that. You can hear the sort of resync happening because the pitch difference is very slight on the output oscillator. The reason why I did it on the output oscillator is because if I did it on the modulator, then the pitch would actually be apparently changed a lot more so than it would if I were doing it on the output oscillator. That's really all there is to that. I chose to be 1 octave higher than the output oscillator because if you remember from previous databases, pretty much all of them pretty recently, I have evolved using the higher octave to force it to output square wave harmonic series as opposed to saw wave harmonic series, which you can do just by making it an octave higher. That's why I do that, and it's quite nice. This is a very simple FM patch, really. The point of the FM in the beginning is not of the signal chain is not really to do any of the main modulation. It's to give it a nice kind of background for the secondary automation on the bandpass to do some interesting stuff with. Because after that, it gets put through this EQ, which is just to shape it. But this shaping was done with the distortion engaged. Because, like I've demonstrated before as well in the past. Wow. I have done it before. Is that having an EQ before your distortion gives you much larger control over what the distortion behaves like, because you're controlling how hard particular frequencies get put into the distortion, which controls a whole host of effects as it goes out of the distortion. Much more so than if you were to try to put an EQ post distortion. Not that I'm saying EQ post distortions are necessarily bad. I'm using this EQ in post just as a bandpass, and then it gets put through the ring modulation. It's not called ring modulation. The bit crusher, and then it gets pulled up really hard by Maximus. If I didn't have Maximus in there, this is what it would sound like. Not necessarily bad in its own right, but not necessarily what I wanted out of this sound. Now, the real kicker about this is because of the extreme compression that we're having on everything in post, the reverb tail is actually, you can modulate it. You can continue to modulate the bandpass filter, and it will have a very audible effect, which is what's happening right here. Oops. The automation clip that I moved by hitting shift and scrolling is, as you can see, it's activating way after the note actually stopped. And that's just the reverb being processed by everything after it is also being bandpassed, just like the original sound itself. And that's just particularly neat. There's a lot of very interesting applications for this. I have used it before on certain things, but it was mostly a fluke at the time because I was just doing my usual neuro-y kind of super EQ modding filter stack. And I decided, what would happen if I put reverb at the beginning? And then I noticed that if I stopped playing the note, the reverb tail would keep being processed by all the filtering. And it's just really weird. But this is a much more stable and deliberate attempt to actually utilize that in a meaningful way. And yeah, so that's kind of neat. Now it's all symmetrical looking. Anyway, please remember to like, favorite, and subscribe. You can download this patch in the description of this video. And if you have any questions about this, let me know. And as usual, have a nice day.